The commemoration of International Day to End Impunity for Crimes on Journalists comes at a time of continued media risks and threats to scribes across the country.
If we cannot keep a journalist as prominent as a shard safe in our country, can we keep ourselves safe? That's a question that we must ask ourselves. And we must ask that because we are just coming out of an election period. And if you look at our records, there are dozens of journalists who came under attack, who came under threats by politicians and by goons hired by politicians for no sin other than for doing their job. We owe these fellow citizens a duty to make sure that their cases are not pushed under the carpet.
In this light, the Kenya Union of Journalists is calling for the protection of press freedom and an end to economic crimes against journalists.
Mental well-being of journalists in newsrooms actually is now at risk because journalists have not been paid for 2 months. Employer has issued notice for redundancy that has almost expired and nothing is happening and no one is talking to these employees so that they can be prepared. So as we condemn crimes against journalists, we must look at economic crimes against journalists. Journalists who are subjected to slavery, no contracts, no pay, and even the pay is there, is too little if you look at the cost of living in the country right now.
Speaking during today's commemoration, President of the Kenya Editors Guild, Churchill Otieno, has called for more investment in the sector to create safe spaces for journalists to execute their work.
We have our own KBC. We have our own KNA. By investing in these entities and getting them to set minimum standards for practice of journalism and for practice of media, we not only do justice to colleagues working in those spaces and to the citizens of Kenya, we also would then have a positive influence in the private media, because what it will then mean is that the private media must then pull up their socks and raise their standards or die.
Moreover, Cabinet Secretary for ICT and Digital Economy Eliud Owalo has promised to safeguard the safety of journalists and press freedom.
Editors also shape opinion on important public issues. Indeed, you have the capacity to make the big issue small and in the converse also make the small issue big. We as a country, and indeed government, the Kenya Kwanza government, respect media freedom. We hold media freedom dear to our hearts, and we will do everything possible as government to ensure that media freedom is upheld in conformity to the relevant articles of the Constitution.
Today's event comes 10 years since the assassination of 2 French journalists in Mali on 2nd of November 2013. Bentura Komboka, K24, Nairobi.